Napoli 3, Frankfurt 0. Hello, Rafa.
Not so much Francoforte, Franco Fiacco.
There you go. That's nice. That's nice. Victor Osimhen with the brace. For Zielinski, it was with the penalty late on. Ooh, the hang time on that header with which Osimhen opened the scoring. Powerful stuff.
Pretty good.
Yeah, very nice.
Couldn't quite hack it at Wolfsburg, but he's doing okay.
He's doing okay there. He's up to 23 goals now this season, which obviously we're living in a kind of Haaland world, but for the rest of us, that's pretty good going. Spalletti, who'd had I thought it was a pretty comfortable first half, but one of the delights of seeing Napoli is watching the kind of performance art that is Luciano Spalletti on the sideline doing a kind of now mime frustration, now mime anxiety. Yeah, and then just towards the end of the first half, Osimhen got a goal, and then it was just ministering with the odd bit of goal scoring. Kvaratskhelia didn't get on the score sheet, Rory. He's your favourite player of all time, etc. I may be paraphrasing a little bit.
He's my favourite current player.
Player. And you went to interview him in Naples last week.
Yeah, I had a really nice time. I also had a pizza tasting menu, James.
Now, okay, so I read that in your excellent New York Times piece, which makes the point that his career trajectory is so much an outlier that it effectively defies belief.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. Kvaratskelia's career is unrealistic. You don't get players. I mean, I won't pretend I watched a lot of him at Rubin Kazan.
Right. His trajectory effectively kind of off the field mirrors his kind of progress off and on it in the way that...
Yeah. He was at Rubin and he'd been at Lokomotiv Moscow, I think, and then he went to Rubin Kazan and he was good. Like, no question. He was one of the best players in the Russian Premier League, and they liked him a lot at Rubin and he was attracting attention. And that's fine, but what doesn't happen is that the player who looks quite good at Rubin Kazan does not immediately become one of the most devastating attacking players in Europe. That just doesn't happen anymore. That talent is kind of signposted and telegraphed. And his kind of explosion at Napoli has been... I mean, I can't genuinely... Yeah, I can't... Well, that's dormant, though, so maybe not. Maybe it's more like Etna, which obviously is in the wrong part of Italy. But I can't remember a player who's done that, who's kind of come not from nowhere. I mean, Salah maybe, who was really good in Rome and then suddenly kind of kicked on another level to become something else again at Liverpool. It feels like that sort of, it's different, obviously stats and stuff, and the numbers aren't quite as impressive, but it feels like that kind of impact from Kvaratskhelia. So yeah, he has been a revelation this season, and I think European football is better for it. Just as human civilization, James, is better for the concept of the pizza tasting menu.
Right, okay, so where did you have your pizza tasting menu?
Well, apparently there's a few in Naples now, but I went to a place called Concettina ai Tre Santi, which is in Rione Sanità, which is a lovely little bit of Naples that has been gentrified recently. And basically they bring you lots of different types of pizza over the course of an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Like a Pizza Hut buffet?
A bit like a Pizza Hut buffet, but slightly higher quality. And it was a one. I was on my own and I didn't feel very well.
What?
But when I was
afterwards,
I didn't feel very well. I thought I was going to die afterwards because I'd eaten too much pizza. But no, I've had a bit of a kind of cold recently, so I wasn't kind of on top form. But it was just a life-affirming culinary experience.
That's extraordinary. What was your favourite flavour?
And this sounds really boring. There was a little they kind of did a broken down Montanara at one point, so they came and put the sauce on, then put some fresh basil in, some olive oil, a bit of salt, and then they put a fried pizza base on top, and that was quite special. But ultimately, the end of it is a slice of margarita,
right.
and Neapolitan margarita is something to behold.
Deconstructed pizza.
Yeah, and then the pineapple on top of that.
Yeah, obviously, just threw the pineapple on, because that's what Italians love on pizza.
So I had pizza, which I then discovered was rated the #1 pizza in Italy, according to a large certificate on the wall. There was about 50 large certificates charting its progress up from year to year, and the kind of Gambero Rosso kind of ratings and that. And what it would be kind of 47th, and then it would. And this guy had invented a new technique with which to prepare the dough. I realized listen, we're getting a little bit off the beaten track with this, but it was a really good pizza. The place, there's a couple of them. It's called Diego Vitaliano. But what I was curious about was, if you finish second one year, what's the difference when you finish first
Pizza
the next
Conference
year?
League, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's the competition, isn't it? It's the competition. So I watched Crufts last week, and the dog that won it,
From crusts to crusts.
exactly, had previously, it was an Italian dog, an Italian type of dog, Lagotto or something, had previously finished second in its category, but it had obviously gone away.
Go again.
Got better as a dog.
Regrouped.
Yeah.
Regrouped. Kind of decided it got rid of some of the kind of inefficiencies of its dog life, kind of improved its
Just wanted
core.
it more this time.
Just
Get
wanted
that
it more.
muzzle up.
And won. So it's just the nature of competition, isn't it?
Right. There's a lesson
Pizzas,
there for
dogs.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
We should also mention, on the subject of nice things, or on the subject of things getting tasty in Naples, perhaps, the scenes between the Eintracht Frankfurt and whoever it was for a lot of the afternoon, the local police, but several hundred Frankfurt fans who were banned from attending the match but turned up anyway. And then there were scenes, there were a lot of things thrown, there were a lot of things broken. There was a police car in flames, most notably. In Naples, the story was that they'd effectively teamed up with the Atalanta fans who'd been their team had been playing there at the weekend. And there's a historic, the two groups of ultras are twinned as well. So apparently there was pictures of a scarf amongst the are they the Eintracht Frankfurt lot, though? Are they particularly well known for this kind of thing, Rafa?
Not for fighting necessarily, but they do turn up at places where they shouldn't be. As you recall from their Europa League run when they colonized Nou Camp effectively. It was a bit. It's difficult to defend because you don't go, I think, with 250 people all wearing black to the center of Napoli and thinking nothing will happen.
Right.
I think there was an element of premonition that they were looking for a scrap, and I'm sure people were looking for them to scrap with, and the police got in the middle of it, and then who attacked who is hard to say from YouTube because they don't wear the shirts, annoyingly, so you can't really identify them too well. But there's no doubt that this will have repercussions, and perhaps retrospectively also explain why they were banned in the first place.
Right.
Because they had information after some scuffles in the first leg that something like this could happen and they didn't want it. Question is, what do you do about it and how are you going to deal with it? Because UEFA, quite interestingly, I don't know if you saw this, Sheffield came out on Tuesday night saying, if this happens again, if we see a team effectively being banned, the fans being banned for an away game in Europe, we will change the rules and say the game has to move.
The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.